Hello, we're back. Welcome to this week's Weather Studio Live. I'm Alex Burkill.
I'm Aidan McGibbon. Thank you for joining us on this day that Storm Floris has been named. That's due to hit the UK on Monday.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for. This time last week we were talking about the weather being quite quiet and that we didn't have that much impactful weather going on. And so this week we have a named storm coming up instead. So a bit of a different live ahead of us, but we will be doing the usual bits in as much as we'll be answering some of your questions. We will still be doing a quiz. And of course, Aidan will be heading over to the board to go through the details, the nitty-gritty of not only this weekend's forecast, but what's going to happen on Monday.
Yes, of course. Lots of people are already asking about Storm Floris and what it will mean for you guys at home. It will mean different things for different parts of the country, naturally, as is always the case with these features. So we'll be going into a lot of detail in this live. But yeah, keep sending those questions in. We'll try and answer as many as possible in the next 30 minutes or so.
Of course, lots of people will have plans through this weekend. Of course, it's a bank holiday in Scotland this Monday, so the timing for this feature is not ideal by any means, and also that is something that's been taken into account and will be taken into account with the warnings that get updated as we get nearer the time, is the fact that lots of people are out, there's more things going on, and that it is a bank holiday on Monday as well. But yes, get your questions coming in. We'll try to answer as many of them as we can. Ideally not just the ones of how windy is it going to be where you are, because we'd like to go into something a bit more in depth. So if you have any deeper questions about the storm, about anything else weather related, then get those coming in. We've already had a few coming in, but have you had a busy week, Aidan?
Yeah, it's been interesting, bits and bobs here and there. Started work on a video to do with AI in weather forecasting, which we'll be putting out at some point in the autumn. So that's hopefully will be interesting for the audience, but also interesting for me to work on because it's a topic that is so relevant at the moment. So yeah, going to be speaking later today to one of our expert meteorologists about AI and how he's using it at the moment in weather forecasting. Lots of people have asked questions about it, so we're going to be covering that. And hopefully that video will come out in the autumn.
Yeah, it's a big talking point with weather, with anything. To be honest, everyone's talking about AI at the moment. And so really interesting to see what you found out about the future and how it looks. Are we still in it?
At the moment, yeah.
Good. That's reassuring.
For the time being.
That's reassuring.
Yeah.
That's what I need to say. Let's have a quick look and see if we have any quick questions that I can answer quickly. One quick question that came in before we started, which I'll cover. Alan Drury asks, looking forward to actually seeing this live today. Are you not always looking forward to seeing the lives? Okay. What's your favourite part of the job, presenting / giving the forecasts or preparing them? That's quite a deep question, isn't it? I think it's the presenting is the most fun bit. I like going next door into our other studio and just talking. I particularly like the ones on a day like today where you have the opportunity to give that extra information that people need. Yeah. So your standard weather days, they're fun, they're interesting, but when there's actual impactful weather and you think that you could actually be helping people, I mean, as our vision says, to stay safe and thrive. Or our purpose, sorry. That's when I really enjoy it most. What about you? Which bit of the job do you prefer?
I like a bit of everything, to be honest. I like the variety that we get in this job, from prepping the graphics to writing scripts to presenting pre-recorded weather forecasts to presenting live forecasts like this one here. And yeah, I like a mix. I like a mix of everything. Different days I'm in the mood for different things, and that's what's great about this job.
I have to admit, when I first started the full-time presenting role, I wasn't a huge fan of doing the TikToks, the Reels. They're a bit out of my comfort zone. Oh, really? But as time's gone on, I've become a little bit more used to them. So so they're a bit more enjoyable now, especially when you get to do some slightly more quirky, interesting things. So should we crack on with this weekend's weather? We will talk about Storm Floris in more detail coming up, but should we have a look at this weekend's weather? Because tale of two halves.
Yeah, and although a lot of the attention obviously is going to be on Storm Floris, it's a decent start to this weekend. Plenty of fine weather about for Saturday. Here's the situation roughly at the time of recording. We go through to the afternoon. We've got this upper trough, this dip in the jet stream, just sitting to the east of the UK. That is clearing away, but these old occluded fronts bringing a few showers. Then into the start of the weekend, before the jet stream ramps up activity later in the weekend and the start of next week, we've got this ridge of the Azores high pressure, and that's going to bring plenty of fine weather on Saturday. And then it all turns a lot more mixed into Sunday with this weather system moving in. So taking a look at the finer details for the rest of today, we've got some showers across central and eastern parts of the UK, but a lot of fine weather towards the west. Into Saturday, this is lunchtime Saturday. As you can see, that ridge of high pressure extending across the UK. Patchy cloud, it's not going to be blue skies everywhere, but aside from the odd light shower possible across eastern parts of the UK, and aside from a thickening of the cloud up towards the far northwest later on, it's a decent day Saturday. If you've got outdoor plans over the next few days, Saturday is the day to make the most of them, because it's basically going to be a fine summer's day. Temperatures close to average, a little bit higher than today's. They're a little bit suppressed today, but a degree or two higher. So we're talking about low to possibly mid-20s in the south, high teens, low 20s further north. So that's Saturday, but then this system waiting in the wings to come in for later Saturday, that's going to swing a band of rain. It's a cold front. Swing a band of rain into the northwest on Saturday night, pushing into parts of Wales, northern England. We start off Sunday basically with that rain sweeping across the country. It's going to bring 30 to 50 millimetres of rain to northwestern areas, western hills and so on. It does move through, but as you can see, 2 o'clock Sunday, I should say, it's still bringing a zone of cloud and outbreaks of rain across the south of the UK, clearing the Midlands. It's quite a showery feature, so although there'll be light and patchy rain for many places, there could be some heavy bursts within it across, say, East Anglia, the Midlands, the South East on Sunday afternoon. Showers follow for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, but some bright spells in between, some decent sunshine there. In between these features, so North Wales brightens up, North Midlands, Northern England later in the day. Then Storm Flores comes along. So let's put some more detail on Storm Flores. Here's everything you need to know about Storm Flores, due to come along on Monday the 4th of August. Now, if we rewind a few steps here, you can see it comes out of North America as a fairly shallow area of low pressure, but the important thing is its interaction with the jet stream over the weekend. And actually, left my pen behind. Here we go, because this is the interesting bit. The speed of the jet stream really picks up strength. 156 miles an hour there, but there are parts of the jet stream that later in the weekend become even stronger. So there's a core here, 159. And it's the fact that we've got this area of low pressure running into that strong jet stream, 165 miles an hour. That's what helps to deepen it rapidly. And it's when these areas of low pressure get spun up by the jet stream and deepen rapidly as they are crossing the UK, that's when we can often experience the biggest problems from these lows. So here it is, Sunday night. It's just approaching, its weather fronts are moving in, but it's still deepening. In fact, at this stage, it moves on to the cold side of the jet stream and in a zone that is particularly favourable for forcing air to rise from the surface and deepen that area of low pressure. You can see all the isobars being added to Storm Flores as it pushes into western Scotland middle of Monday. Now, initially, that storm is going to bring some very wet weather. So it's the rain early Monday that will be the most significant aspect. This is 5 a.m. Monday, and what you can see here, the pressure chart on the left with the jet stream and the rain starting to turn up across western Scotland, northwest England, North Wales and Northern Ireland. The winds at this stage, not too concerning. This is early Monday. And as the rain moves in, it turns increasingly heavy through Monday morning. So the wettest weather through Monday morning across Scotland, Northern England, North Wales and Northern Ireland. Not a great deal of rain further south. And then the heaviest and most persistent rain moves through. And this swathe, indicated by the colours across western Scotland, Northern Ireland. This swathe of very strong winds arrives after the more persistent rain. So we're talking about late afternoon into the evening on Monday. That's when the winds really ramp up. It's often in systems like Storm Floris that we see this wraparound occlusion, and it's that hook in the rain coming into the north and northwest of Scotland and swinging into the central belt, for example, that can hold the strongest and most disruptive winds. And actually the winds continue to strengthen as that hook of rain, heavy rain, perhaps some thunderstorms within it, that pulls away on Monday night, and the strongest the winds then move from the west of Scotland into northeast Scotland, as you can see there. A bit more detail on the winds in just a moment, but let's cover the rain, because this shows the total rainfall we're expecting on Monday from Storm Floris, and it shows fairly widely in excess of 25 millimetres, in some spots more than 50, and then when you add on Tuesday's rain as well, then in total there is the risk fairly widely of 30 to 50 millimetres across, say, western parts of Scotland over the hills, but in some of the wetter spots, the chance of more than 70, 75 millimetres of rain. So a wet spell of weather, the heaviest of the rain, as I say, going through during the first half of Monday. Then it turns very showery, and it's within that hook of heavy rain that arrives later in the day as the low pulls away, where we're going to see the strongest of the winds. And that really starts to pick up from middle of the afternoon on Monday. So this is 2 p.m. It shows the wind gusts, and it's highlighting everywhere the winds are stronger than 50 miles an hour. So this swathe coming into western Scotland and Northern Ireland. And just playing it forward there, you can see by the time the evening starts on Monday, so Monday evening, we've got widely 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts across Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland and parts of northern England, and in places the risk of 70 mile per hour wind gusts, exposed hills and coasts. So those are the numbers to pay attention to: 50 to 60, and in some places 70 mile per hour wind gusts. But there is a risk as Floris moves away, and we're talking about Monday night, that it will tighten even further as it clears the northeast of Scotland. And in this scenario, there is a risk that winds will touch 80 or perhaps slightly more miles per hour just in that northeast corner of Scotland. So this is late Monday evening going into Monday night, and that's one of the main concerns, whether those winds will reach 80 or 85 miles an hour. There is that smaller risk of that happening in the northeast corner of Scotland as Floris moves away. But more generally, we're talking about 50 to 60 miles an hour, 70 for the most exposed coasts and hills. How unusual is that for August? I know a lot of people would be saying those kinds of winds, typical winter's day for Scotland, but really quite unusual for August. These are the wind gust records for August for various stations across Scotland. And appreciate it might be difficult to read the numbers here, but typically we're looking at 50, 52 there for the far north of the mainland of Scotland into Orkney. There's a 59, these are knots by the way, 59 off the northeast coast of Aberdeenshire, I think. So that would be in miles an hour, 65 miles an hour, perhaps a touch more. Western Isles, 51, 56 knots. So again, we're talking about mid-50s to 60 miles an hour. And through the central belt, we're looking at wind gusts of 34 to 49 knots. Northern Ireland, likewise, a mix of 40s in there, the odd 55, 50. So there's not many coming up that are 60 miles an hour. We're talking about 50 to 60 and some exposed spots 70 miles an hour as the most likely winds. So that just shows, really quite exceptional for August, even in a windy part of the country. And this further highlights it. This is a fairly technical graphic from ECMWF, when people are so busy travelling around the country, camping, putting up temporary structure, village fetes, that sort of thing. And so that is why we've issued this warning for Monday, covering much of the northern half of the UK. Even if you're further south, don't think you're out of the woods completely. It's still going to be a very windy period. So if you've got outdoor plans, if you're camping, if you're travelling around, stay tuned to the forecast. Make sure you adapt those plans to stay safe. But yeah, it's the northern half of the UK where the strongest winds are most likely, and they could cause considerable impacts given the time of year, compared with, say, if the same storm, the same wind strengths occurred in January. After Storm Flores, just to end with this, moves away, still very windy in the northeast on Tuesday, but by Wednesday, look at that, great big high pressure moving in, the weather settling down for a few days.
Yeah, the calm after the storm. Thank you so much, Aidan. That was really, really in-depth and really useful. Lots of questions coming in about Flores, of course. We've been talking about explosive cyclogenesis. Can you explain that a bit better and what's going to happen?
Yeah, so explosive cyclogenesis is where an area of low pressure deepens by 24 hectopascals or millibars in the space of 24 hours. Don't think, is Storm Flores deepening that much, that quickly?
I'm not entirely sure. I haven't double checked, but it is going to go through rapid deepening.
It is. I don't know if it's quite on the scale of explosive cyclogenesis. I'll check in just a moment, but yeah, it's certainly something that we often talk about with these features as they interact with the jet stream, and when that very rapid deepening occurs close to the UK, it's slightly more difficult to predict the precise wind gusts, because there are such specific interactions between the low and the jet stream that need to happen, and any slight difference at the start of that interaction will make a big difference later on in the wind gusts. And B, that's when you can get the most troubling winds, is when you get this very rapid deepening close to the UK.
I think it will be close to dropping by 24 in 24. At its lowest, we're looking at it being around 980 hectopascals, maybe a little bit lower, maybe a little bit higher, and about 24 hours before it's about 1000, 1005. So it'll be close.
Very
to
close.
weather. Yeah. Regardless, it is going to be, as you say, it's the time of year that it's coming through which is going to increase the impacts that we're going to see on there. And so really useful talk that you just went through, showing how station records for August are quite likely to be exceeded. Northern Ireland's record for August, not out of the question either, and some other bits as well. So Gordon, I hope that answered your question. Tom Wins also sent in a question saying, how will this storm compare to Storm Corrie? So obviously different time of year. Corrie was in January 2022, I want to say. You're looking at me uncertain, but I think it was.
I can't remember. These storms come and go, and only a couple of remain up here.
It did follow a fairly similar track to Flores, but it was different time of year, and it was slightly more intense. It had gusts of in excess of 90 miles per hour. We're not quite expecting that with Flores. So, but it's the time of year. Also worth bearing in mind, Corrie came quite quickly on the back of Malik. So we had two storms very close together at that point. And so with that in mind, the impacts were increased. But we've just got to come back to the fact that that was a January, this is an August storm. And so the impacts are going to be different. Trees full of leaf, events going on, that kind of thing, lots of issues.
Which is exactly why Met Office warnings are based on impacts rather than wind thresholds, because you've got to take so many things into account when thinking about what will happen as a result of features like this.
With that in mind, lots of people are asking as well whether or not the warnings are going to be escalated, whether or not we're going to need amber or red.
Well, you know, stay tuned. Basically, over the weekend, at the moment, we base warnings on a combination of likelihood and impacts. So what are the impacts and what's the likelihood of those impacts happening? The impacts could be anything from low to medium to high. I believe this is a low likelihood of medium impacts. Is that correct? I think it's a low likelihood of medium impacts. Now, if the level of impacts remain the same over the next few days, but our confidence in those impacts increases, then medium likelihood of medium impacts would warrant an amber warning. But of course, we're 3 days ahead, so yeah, we'll have to wait and see how the computer models come into alignment, hopefully over the weekend, and we can get a bit more confidence.
The station records chart that you showed earlier, that's not available externally, is it? That's an internal asset. Yeah.
Yeah, it's from one of our tools internally, I'm afraid.
Yeah, sorry about that, Martin. Nick O'Connell has asked, any tsunamis going to happen with Flores?
No is the easy answer to that, because of course tsunamis are driven by earthquakes under the sea, although there is a phenomenon known as a meteorological tsunami that I can't quite remember how they are caused. It might not be a properly scientific term or meteorological term, but I've heard about very, very big waves being caused by meteorological features that have been likened to tsunamis. Having said that, there will be some very large waves, so thank you for reminding me about that. Large waves are expected because of Flores, so that could add to the impacts. Of course, a lot of people heading to coastal areas, given that it's a weekend and bank holiday weekend for Scotland, and of course it's August, so large waves, coastal impacts, very likely to occur because of Flores.
Thank you very much, Aidan. Cuthbert has just sent a question in saying, is there a quiz? But I feel like, well, there will be. We are going to do a quiz, but I feel like there's still more that we want to talk about with Storm Floris. So let's just double check some of the questions. But we were just having a debate amongst ourselves whether or not it is going to be a bomb or not. So that's what I was reading about in the chat. So it's still, I think, as we mentioned already, it's close as to whether or not it's going to be a weather bomb, explosive cyclogenesis. We generally don't use the weather bomb. Well, the chat is going really crazy. I can't actually keep up. It's just going so quickly. Oh, lots of people saying various issues. I think we froze for a little bit, so apologies for that, but we're back now and lots of people telling us that. One question that came in, which I'll throw to you whilst I'm sorting things out. In the deep dive on Tuesday, Honor mentioned that tephigrams are one of her favourite weather charts. Do you have a favourite weather chart?
Ooh, my favourite the weather charts that we incorporated into Visual Cortex at the start of the year, these decider graphics, because I'm just constantly amazed at how we can summarize the output from more than 250 computer model simulations and produce a meaningful idea of what the weather could be doing in 2 weeks' time using all sorts of visualization tools. So it's this, I would say, my current favorite anyway. But we are working on some more tools coming soon to visualize ensembles, visualize the multitude of weather models that are run these days. So stay tuned for that, and I'm very excited about those developments.
Good. Yeah, that is exciting. I'm really excited about those developments too. You've been working really hard. Question from James Boyle. Met Aaron, obviously they're a separate body, but do you think they're going to be issuing any advisories or warnings? Like how strong the wind's looking in the Republic of Ireland?
Yeah, I imagine they will be. They're also going to experience some very strong winds. Just to give you a flavour of that, we can go back to this gust graphic, and it's really earlier on Monday, as you can see, far west of Ireland, 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. But because of the way that Storm Floris is projected to move across northern Scotland at the moment, the strongest of the winds, the far northwest of the Republic of Ireland there, but the strongest of the winds will mostly affect Scotland, Northern Ireland, into parts of Northern England and North Wales, rather than the Republic of Ireland. But yeah, certainly for more information, Met Aaron will keep you updated over the next few days, I'm sure. Yeah,
and it's worth also highlighting, like we often mention when it comes to our storm naming, we work in partnership with Met Aaron and also KNMI, the Dutch Met Service, and we spoke to them before naming this, and we always make sure we're all in alignment, in agreement about what's happening. So whilst they are a separate body, we do talk to each other and make sure we're all telling the same story. So
we're all good friends, yeah.
Right, do you want to come over for the quiz? Okay, so obviously there is a storm coming and it's August, so there is a loose theme of
August storms.
August storms, but then I've realised actually only one of the questions is actually about August storms. So there is no real theme to this week's weather, but it's all quite topical, I'd say.
Okay.
I'd say, it's about this week. Let's go with that. So,
hopefully no F1 questions.
No F1 questions, no sport questions at all. So sorry about all you sport fans out there, you will be disappointed. So question 1, Flores is the name of this upcoming storm. But how many counts of Holland were called Flores?
How many, sorry, what was that?
Counts of Holland, so like they're kings, I guess, I think,
okay.
or something.
Count Flores, popular.
Really popular. So is the answer 2, 3, 4 or 5? So A2, B3, C4 or D5. So how many Count Floreses of Holland have there been? I don't know if the plural for Floreses, but we'll go with it is. You've sent your answer in. Let's see how many people on the chat know their Dutch history.
I'm sure a lot of people know that.
Lots of people. Carl pointing out that sports are cancelled this weekend because of the weather, so that's why there are no sports questions. But that's not quite right. I can't remember how I viewed the answers on the... Oh, it's because I'm not logged in. That's why. Great, don't worry. Bear with me a second. But so you've got your answer in. So keep your answers coming in at home, and then we'll move on to question 2, which is... How many named storms have we had in August, not including Flores?
In total?
Yeah, in total. So in the past, we've been naming storms for... This is our 10th season. No, this is our 10th season. And in that time, how many times have we had a named storm in August, not including this one? The answer is... you've given the answer before I gave you the multiple choice.
Yeah.
That may not be one of the answers.
I think it might be.
The multiple choice answers are actually the same as the previous question. So 2, 3, 4 or 5, and you've sent your answer in. Let's have a look.
I know that in 1 year we had 2.
So lots of people saying...
Might be 2 years.
Yeah, lots of people saying 2. Oh gosh, I'm about to end the poll, which I don't mean to. Most people saying 2 or 3. Well, interesting.
I went with 4. I'll tell you why. Because I thought, and I know 1 year we've had 2, so that's at least 2. And then in the other 9 storm seasons, I feel like we've had at least 2 other years where we've had 1.
Wow.
Just 4 felt right.
Wow. 4 right. Is a good answer, but is it the right one? We'll find out at the end. Okay, question 3. Now we move on from Storm Flores. Yesterday, the WMO confirmed a new record of 515 miles for the longest
I know this. I'm going to write it in. Just to show you, I'm going to write it in before you give away the answer. Right. I was just writing it in the wrong team's chat. Here we go. Oh, no, that's not it. That's not it.
No, Alex, so your first answer. No, Aidan, journal is...
I copied and pasted the wrong word. Right.
So I'll give you the answers or the multiple choice. So A, tornado track, B, lightning flash, C, haboob, or D, transcript from a Met Office deep dive. So which of these was a new record of 515 miles long confirmed yesterday by the WMO? You have sent in your answer. You've kind of got it right. You've kind of got it wrong, but I'll look over that. So
what do you mean? Hang on.
We'll go through that when I give you the answers at the end. You'll see why. Right, question 4. Today is the 164th anniversary of what? The first weather balloon launch, the first official lightning observation, or the first ever weather forecast in a newspaper, or the first ever weather studio live? You can see I struggled to find the 4th answer.
164th.
164th anniversary of what? Today. The first weather balloon launch, the first official lightning observation, the first
I know that.
ever weather forecast in a newspaper, or the first ever weather studio live?
I do actually know that one.
Let's see. Okay, you're doing quite well. You're doing quite well. Let's see what other people have put for this one. Oh, I missed it. Lots of people seem to be getting various different answers. So that's interesting. It seems quite mixed, but I think the general consensus, more people seem to be getting it right than, getting the right answer seems the most popular one. Now, question 5. before you said bye-bye, what was the last word you said in this week's weekend weather video? Was it A, low, B, high, C, Flores, or D, stormy?
Not C or D. Definitely not C or D. We hadn't named Flores at that point.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have been so reckless as to mention it, having
press
not named
office
it.
would have had a word with you.
And given that we hadn't named it, I don't think I would have said stormy either.
We're allowed
Could
to
be
say
wrong.
stormy.
Yeah, but
I said stormy on Wednesday in my 10-day trend, which I highlighted the potential for this wet and windy weather that's coming through on Monday. So I did well. But
okay.
yeah, so did you end with the word low or the word high or Flores or stormy? Great, well done. You have done incredibly well. Incredibly well.
Did I get them all right?
No. But you'll find that out very soon. Right, so let's go through the answers. Do keep your answers coming in, and if you enjoyed the questions. So starting off with, how many counts of Holland were called Flores? And you put...
5.
5. 5 is the correct answer. I purposely didn't put 6 as an option because there was also Flores the Black, who was a rebel count who tried to overthrow his brother, I think.
Did you count that count?
I didn't count that one. No, I only went for the legit one. So there was Flores the First, Flores the Second, Flores the Third, Flores the Fourth, and then Flores the Fifth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just keep thinking of Sesame Street.
Oh, what what was he just called the Count?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, but well done if you put 5. Well done if your Flores knowledge is good. Remember, Flores, the name actually comes from Dutch origin. And which again goes in line with the fact that we name our storms in partnership with KNMI, so they suggest some of the names, even though we actually named this storm. Question 2, how many named storms have we had in August, not including Flores? The answers are 2, 3, 4 or 5. You said 4. You missed one. We've had 5, yeah. So last year we had Lillian, the year before we had Anthony and Betty, and then in 2020 we had Ellen and Frances.
So there's been 2 years with 2. Yeah,
that's what threw you. Yeah. So
same number of counts.
Same number as counts.
Summer storms.
Yeah. No, August storms.
August storms.
Because we had a July storm once, didn't we?
June. We've had a few June storms.
Cool. Question 3. Yesterday, the WMO confirmed a new record of 515 miles for the longest what? Well done if you said lightning flash. Now you put lightning strike, but I think a lightning strike
For the record, I put it before.
You did put it before, but lightning strike and lightning flash are ever so slightly different things. So a lightning flash, this term is talking about the lightning inside a cloud that doesn't reach the ground, which is why it's kind of a separate term. But this one spread from all the way from North Texas all the way to Missouri, but it actually happened in 2017. And the previous record of 477 miles was recorded in 2020. So it's kind of confusing that they've only just observed this thing that happened, 8 years ago, and it surpasses the record that happened 5 years ago. But I think it's because they've only just checked it in the observation data from their satellites that they're getting. I think it came from one of their big satellites. So interesting, but I'll give you the point because it was a big flash of lightning, really big, 550 miles long. Question 4, today is the 164th anniversary of what? And yes, it's the 164th anniversary of the first ever weather forecast in a newspaper. So you got that right. It was in the Times newspaper on, the 1st of August. And
1861.
1861. So well done if you knew that. Good Met knowledge. And then lastly, question 5, before bye-bye, what was the last word you said in your weekend weather video this week? And the answer was?
Low.
Low. Yes, you were talking about the very deep low, unseasonably deep low pressure. That is now Storm Floris. It wasn't at the time. But that is now coming through on Monday. As you mentioned, we do have high pressure following in behind, so some more settled weather to come. But that wasn't the big talking point. Let us know in the comments how you did. Barb Mac, 0 out of 5. Good luck next time. A couple of people getting 4 out of 5, like you. So well done, Mikey. Sylvan also got 4 out of 5. Lots of people getting some pretty decent scores. Tony Nags, don't worry, 2 out of 5, nothing to be ashamed of. They were quite abstract questions, especially if you didn't make it all the way to the end of your weekend weather video, but I'm sure most people did. Should we have a little look and see if there are any more questions that I want to throw at you before we go? Can't see any that standing. When will the graphics be made available to the public from Callum? So is that the graphics you talk about, the 14-day?
Yeah, was it the decider graphics or was it the general graphics that we use? I don't know, but not in any time soon, I'm afraid. Not anytime soon, but never say never.
Never say never.
Let's see. Is there a quiz? We've answered that one.
I think they were asking also about general VC graphics. So, you know, the graphics that we use for all of our broadcasts and stuff. I don't think the plans to make them available to the public anytime soon. It would be nice. I think they're quite resource heavy. We have to have quite big computers to make them work and stuff. So that is that. So Dave Donuts has asked, is the jet stream strong for this time of year and being so far south? Yes, it is pretty strong at the time of year. I don't know how fast it's getting, but I'm guessing it's close to 200 miles per hour. And at this time of year, you don't usually expect that. It's usually as we go into the autumn, winter months when you get a bigger contrast between the poles and the equator, and it's that temperature contrast as the northern poles cool down as we go deeper into the autumn winter period. It's that temperature contrast that leads to the strengthening jets. So at this time of year the temperature difference isn't as marked because the sun is relative to the earth further north. As a result, we usually don't get such strong jets, and the chance of the jet running directly across the UK is also less likely. And so whilst it does happen, we've had deep lows at this time of year before, it's not as common as during the winter months, which is why our storm season runs from September to September, because it took a while before we had a summer named storm. The first one was 2020 for August, but maybe we need to consider changing when our storm season runs, because it's a little bit confusing that we're talking about the Flores now, and then in a few weeks' time we could be talking about A on the next storm list. I almost let it slip, but
well, there's got to be a transition period, hasn't there? There's got to be. September makes sense because it's the start of August.
It does make sense.
Start of autumn, I should say.
It does make sense. It's just we've had a few Augusts recently. So that's that. One question's come in. Katie McGiven would like to know, it says, Daisy wants to know what the weather will be like at the park later.
Yeah, perfect park playing weather later on, Daisy. Take your bike with you as well. It's great weather. Now that you're an expert cyclist, really good weather for playing in the park and cycling. Better than last Saturday when we went to the park. And yeah, I checked the rain forecast in the app, but there was a shower, almost a thunderstorm that developed just over us. We all got absolutely soaked. And that was Sunday actually, because it was Daisy's birthday on Sunday. We got drenched in the park, but it was a good laugh.
Did you get the blame?
Yeah, I did. I always get the blame. I always get whatever happens, I get the blame. But we had fun at Daisy's party later, and today, no sign of those torrential downpours, so you'll be fine.
In other news this week, not just the fact that we have Storm Floris arriving on Monday, but it's also the fact that we announced that we're going into partnership with BBC, which is really exciting. How do you feel about it, Aidan?
Don't know much about it, but yeah, I'm sure we'll carry on doing these lives on YouTube and so on, and continue to do what we do for you guys at home. So keep following us on YouTube and Spotify as well. Follow us on Spotify. That's another place where you can get our forecasts. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think on the same day that, or maybe the day before that we announced our partnership with BBC upcoming, it also was announced that YouTube is now the highest platform that younger adults watch they're on TV. So it's really important that we keep going with our content that we put out on YouTube. I hope you enjoy it, but like you say, it is on Spotify as well. And we also put out a lot of other content on Instagram, TikTok. So do also follow us there if you want to keep up with the information about Storm Floris, because as we've already covered, things are going to get updated as we go through this weekend. It's not coming till Monday. There's a lot of time for the low to change how it's developing, to change its track, and so exactly where we see the strongest winds, how strong those winds are going to be, how deep the low is going to be. Still some questions to be answered. Helen Foley has asked when next year's storms are going to be published, and 1st of September. So we'll release the list of storms, the new list, on the same day that the new season starts, just to avoid any confusion in case we get another August storm before then. So just to avoid any confusion, on the 1st of September, that's when we will launch the new list. I guess it could be a little confusing if, say, there's a storm arriving on the 1st of September. So then if that happens, we might need to bring it forward. Because then what would we do?
Yeah.
I don't know if the press office has thought about that, so I'll raise this. If they're watching, they can answer me later, because that's an interesting one.
Let's not tempt fate.
Let's not. Which it would probably happen one day, you'd imagine, maybe. So that's one to watch. Right, so as we've mentioned, stay up to date with the forecast, stay up to date with the warnings. There is a chance we may need to escalate them. Whatever your plans are this weekend, obviously Saturday's looking like a pretty fine day for most of us. Sunday, the vast majority will see a spell of wet weather at some point, and it could even be thunder at times, so watch out for that. But perhaps the biggest talking point is the very windy weather, likely across particularly northern parts, but even further south it's going to be windy for an August day on Monday due to Storm Floris. So keep up to date with the forecast. I think that's everything that we've got time for today. Aidan, have a lovely weekend and enjoy next week. I think you're back with Honor next week, is that right?
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got the day off. And so we will see you again soon.
Thanks for watching.